information is free.
The law.
There is hope.
The Johnny Rocket Launchpad. And now, here's Johnny.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my pants, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom.
Hey, it's Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, always launching ideas. Your direction, America's only rock and roll libertarian radio show. I'm here with my co-host, the one and only Kurt Nelson.
Hey, my brother.
My voice of reason, the beautiful Heather Nixon.
Well, thank you so much, Johnny.
And it was those Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, always launching ideas, and it's liberty, what we're talking about here on this show. And you know what, guys? Guess what episode this is?
Which episode is it?
One away, baby. One away.
One away.
One away. This is episode 99.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Yeah, you missed it by one. That's our guest that you're not supposed to know about yet. Anyway, so what we're doing here, we have a very special guest. So you guys ready for our guest here on this special 99 episode of the Johnny Rocket Launchpad?
Hit it.
This individual is a regular contributor to the Huffington Post and other sites. This individual writes on various issues in American politics and economics, focusing on the need and means of reversing our nation's slide from its founding ideals. This individual's work is very widely read, with some of his articles being shared and liked by tens of thousands of people, and the readership that is much larger. This individual not only writes about our problems, but also draws on a keen cultural observation and his deep understanding of history and psychology to show how they could be solved. This individual's success as a writer led to his becoming the host of his own radio show, The Blue Republican. And now he is here talking about his new book, If You Could Keep It. I welcome here on the Launchpad for episode 99, the Blue Republican himself, Robin Koerner! Yeah! Woo! Damn! Robin, how's it going, man?
That's the most applause I've had in a while. It's going all right.
You got a great new book, and I've heard you on the Jason Stapleton program, Lines of Liberty. God, and Tom Woods.
Tom Woods, yes.
Yeah.
So, man, you're all over, and this
I
is
am
great.
now on the Johnny Rocket Launchpad.
Thank you
the
very
other
much for
just
being here.
practice Johnny Rocket, you know.
That's right, man. Save the best for last.
Oh, this isn't last.
Well,
Save
for
the
right
best.
now it is.
Oh, have I got to stop now? Is it all over?
It's done.
Well, I tell you what, if I can sell 1,000 books off this show, then I'll stop. How about
There you
that?
go. There you go.
Right.
You probably will. All right. Anyway, so your book, it's a brand new book, If You Can Keep It.
Okay, well, the subhead is why we nearly lost it and how we get it back.
Okay.
And obviously the it in the title refers to our constitutional republic, right? That famous quote from Ben Franklin, who, coming out of writing the Constitution, was asked, "What form of government have you given us, sir?" And he said, "A republic, if you can keep it." And, you know, there's hundreds of libertarian kind of books out there explaining why we're going to, or how we're going to hell in a handbasket, and the correct thinking libertarian solutions, or classical liberal, or constitutional conservative, or whatever label you prefer. There's hundreds of those books. So this isn't one of those. This book is about why is it that despite the fact that Declaration of Independence, for example, says that it is up to we the people to maintain our rights. And that Jefferson said, because of that, the ultimate defense of our liberty is informing the discretion of the people. Why is it that we the people, if we've lost all these rights, have let them go? Like, what is it about the way we look at our world, process information, receive information, think, see? What is it about all these things, basically culture and psychology, that causes us to stand by as power takes away our rights? And the reason that's important is, unless we can understand that gap between reality as it's perceived by most Americans by the mainstream and actual reality, the actual state of our country, how the situation we're in does not match our kind of self-narrative, right? Our myths about ourselves. If we don't understand all of that, then we can't put it right. So this is an actionable book. And I flatter myself that it is one of the most original liberty books written in recent times.
You're not like regurgitating other books. You're just basically a whole new perspective, a whole new outlook, and a whole different way of going at it.
That's exciting.
You
That's really cool.
know Jeffrey Tucker. You've had Jeffrey Tucker on your show, right?
We have not, but we met him.
You need to get him because he is one of the best minds in the liberty movement for my money. He actually called the book in what was actually quite a provocative foreword. He wrote the foreword for the book. He called it provocative and revisionist. And it was actually a glowing forward, but he really kind of stuck his neck out with some of those terms. So yeah, it's that original. You know, if it's original to Tucker, then it's definitely original.
Robin, we were at the Mexican restaurant with you when
Yes.
Jeffrey Tucker gave you that.
Yes, that was
forward.
the same day that he actually wrote and I had asked
And he
him
was like
before
making out with you at the restaurant. Heather and I
have pictures.
took pictures of Heather took pictures, and we were like, wow, we could use this as like.
That was some Liberty love right there.
we had a love fest over burritos.
Yeah, you did. You did. That was
right.
great. Oh, you had a great time.
It was wonderful. Yeah, I love that man. I do, seriously. I do love that man. Yeah, it was great because that was the day he actually sent it to me. We met in the evening, right? And in the morning, he had sent me the forward. And he had agreed weeks earlier to write the forward. And I, of course, was very kind of humbled and delighted by that. And he had said when he'd originally agreed to write it that he would get it done in a day. And I was like, wow. Well, he didn't get it done in a day. He didn't get it done in a week. And he didn't get it done in a month. So by the time we all met, I was like, oh my God, am I being blown out by Jeffrey Tucker? And of course I wasn't. And when we met, he actually apologized for the time it took him to write it. And he said the most lovely thing. He said, to be honest, Robin, I was so intimidated by the book. It took me 4 attempts to write the forward. And I ended up with 4 forwards. And I sent you the one I thought was best. And I was so thrilled with it. I made him know that it was definitely worth waiting for.
That's really nice.
Wow, that's really
That's a
cool.
great story.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a great story. So I guess the question of the day is, what's a paradigm?
Hey, somebody's been reading a book, huh?
Well, no, I went to your classes and I still don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I read part of the book. I did.
Yeah. So
Heather owns the book. She's thumbing through it now. But
Okay, so the first chapter, I actually answer that question in some depth, right?
there you
So
go.
a paradigm is the set of concepts through which you don't only interpret the world, but you actually perceive it, right? It's kind of everything you already know and all the relationships among all the things you already know that determine the data you can collect about the world around you and your experience of that world. And of course, in politics, that's super important, right? Because if power, the government, the state is taking down our rights, unless we can see that they're being taken down, unless we can actually directly experience that in some way, we're not going to do anything about it. And a lot of us haven't been doing anything about it, right? So it's really important at the most fundamental level, psychologically, neurologically, to understand how, our experience of reality can never be purely objective. And so if it's at least partially subjective, how is it subjective? Because if we're trying to change people's minds to get them to see what's so with all our facts and logic and just showing them stuff, which libertarians like to do a lot, well, why don't they just get it? It's so clear.
Sure.
If we can't do that, then we don't save the country, and I want to save the country.
Yeah, in the book, you talk about how we come so close to losing our nation's founding promise. What are some of the rights that we've lost here in America?
Well, some of the most basic, right? The right to due process is probably the most fundamental. Maybe you could say that even more foundational than that is common law itself. Then I would say perhaps the right to be governed by laws that are voted on by our representatives. Now, that is not so anymore. Most of what governs our existence are actually executive regulations, right? Passed by such bodies as the IRS, the EPA, all of these executive agencies that congressmen, the people we vote for, do not vote for or even vote on. There are some really fundamental things that we have lost. Under the Patriot Act, it's actually a crime to tell the truth in certain circumstances, which is an astonishing elimination of the First Amendment. You could go through pretty much all of the amendments, and maybe with the arguable exception of the third, I think it is, say that we've lost all of them in the Bill of Rights.
I would have to agree with all that. Robin, your book is dedicated to Edward Snowden. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, well, in the dedication, how did I put that? Let me just pull it up here. I've got a copy. Didn't I say dedicated to Edward Snowden, who stepped out of his paradigm to help the rest of us step out of ours? It's a great question because it enables me to point up something that I talk about at some length in the book, which is that culture precedes politics. Now, loads of us who care about politics and care about liberty, we kind of directly go for the politics. We talk about, argue about political ideas. We get very exercised by politicians and what they're doing and parties and all of that stuff. Well, that's all kind of important. But we often forget that politics is downstream from culture. In other words, culture precedes politics. There is, to a very large extent, politics can only do what the culture lets it, which is why Jefferson was right when he talked about informing the discretion of the people, right? Because really, culture is the sum of all of those paradigms of all of the people, right? Of all of the citizens. Now, Edward Snowden did something obviously very unusual and very brave. He was able to process his experience in a way that nobody else has. He saw the surveillance state in the biggest sense for what it was, and was able to, share with the culture exactly what was being done to us. In other words, he actually stayed true to his oath as an employee in a secret service to defend the rights of Americans and the Constitution. Now, the reason I dedicate the book to him is, in so doing, he kind of did not see what he was looking at in the same way everybody else saw it around him, right? He saw the full fundamental implications of what he was involved in. And by sharing it with us, by blowing the lid off it, he has caused us to see our government, us meaning we the people, large numbers of we the people, to see our government and what they do supposedly for our security in a whole new way. And in concrete terms, right, many writers, including myself, but hundreds of others, before Snowden were banging on about our loss of rights, the NDAA, the Patriot Act, the surveillance state, how, we're trading liberty not for security, but for a false sense of security, and that the whole thing is obviously a complete abrogation of, as I say, the Bill of Rights, especially the Fourth Amendment, whatever. Lots of people were saying that was going on, but nobody was taking any notice. Why? Because, it wasn't in the culture. It was a political discussion. Now, Snowden brought it kind of into the culture by enabling regular folks to kind of get that things they were doing in their everyday life were being intruded upon. In other words, the experience of making a phone call changed when we actually knew and had the specific facts that your particular phone calls were being listened to, right? And so by moving what was abstract political discussion about the loss of rights into an experienced change in our everyday life, we activate the culture. And indeed, we actually saw that, right? Because there was a vote. After Snowden, there was that vote that was narrowly defeated to rein in the NSA. Now, he did that. He did that by giving us specifics that changed the culture, and then the politics followed. Now, obviously, the politics hasn't followed far enough yet, and we're still working on it. But he represented a step change, not because he told us which rights were being lost that we didn't already know. Loads of people were already pointing it out, but he made it a reality. And, and I look at history in the book, right? And I talk about how you can see that the fight back against tyranny typically starts, and I'm looking at 1,000 years of our Anglo tradition, when corrupt power overreaches beyond the political into the culture. In other words, people start to feel that rights that not only did they have, but that they actually exercised and practically enjoyed yesterday, they're not going to have tomorrow. At that point, people start to be willing to pay a price to maintain the rights that they are about to feel they're losing.
Yeah, and I recently watched Citizen 4, and I was shocked that the charge that they're actually charging him with, which the legal term escapes me, you might know it, that he actually has no defense. He can't say that he was whistleblowing. He can't say that he was showing that the government was doing wrong because of what they charged him with. He has no defense, which is why he can't come back.
That sounds about right. And, I think Edward Snowden obviously is a patriot and a hero. And, if I was, in my kind of fantasy, if I was the president, I would probably say, hopefully to unite the country around the Edward Snowden issue, I would say, okay, we will bring him back and we will let him be tried by a jury of his peers. But that jury will be informed of their common law right to nullify, which means that if Edward Snowden is guilty under an unjust law, the jury can nullify the law. And
Absolutely.
Then let's do it. Let's put it to the people, because I trust the people. Under those conditions, I trust the people.
I just don't trust the courts because I don't think they would tell them to do that.
Oh, no, you're quite right. We couldn't, obviously, if he had a trial.
The judge would go, you know what, guys, you're not allowed to tell them about jury nullification.
Right. And indeed, there are folks, I think the jury nullification movement is excellent. There are folks in that movement who have been threatened by judges for giving out, leaflets and information, right, about jury nullification at trials. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you brought up a great point about how government follows culture, but it's usually like a 20 or 30 year delay, I'm noticing. How long did it take them to accept homosexuals into the military? A long time before they finally caught on. The actual government actually finally caught on to it.
Well, a long time since when, though? Like, it depends where you would measure the start.
Well, I think it was being pushed in the 70s, if I remember correctly. I mean, they wanted gays in the military in the 70s, and it started around 2000, I believe they let them in.
That's right. You see, it was being pushed. But then, the idea of gays in the military was, very much a kind of an idea in a small subculture. In fact, the gay community in the 70s, I mean, you're still talking about, disco, right?
What's wrong with disco, Robin?
I mean, the reason I mention that is because...
Don't talk about my car wash. My Rolls Royce. That's a great song.
There was, the whole, the gay subculture really started to break out into the mainstream, starting there in Manhattan with that alliance between a marginalized black subculture and a marginalized gay subculture, right? So if you take it back to the 70s, that really isn't where the change had been made in the culture. That was where the change began, right? But the normalization of homosexuals in our culture came much later than the 70s.
Well, wasn't it under Clinton, the don't ask, don't tell? It wasn't until then. It's like you can be in it, but just don't talk about it.
It was mid-90s. But America, the coming out was in the 70s. In the 80s, the culture started, the ideas were embedding itself within the culture. And
But my point here, Johnny, is that, let's put it this way then, maybe a bit more specific. What happens in mainstream politics follows mainstream culture, right? And that's why I talk about, a lot of this book is about, right, psychology and cultural factors that we need to understand to bring liberty in, to make liberty mainstream. I mean, we could say now that liberty is strongly represented in American culture, and it is, and you and I are part of doing that, right?
Sure.
But it needs to be a lot more mainstream. It doesn't, for example, we can't say yet that the typical independent voter, for example, is consciously thinking in terms of liberty in the Constitution when they decide where. Of
course not. Of course not.
So
they're thinking about team me.
Team me.
Yeah. Like, what can it do for me?
So here's the thing, right? Because if liberty is so great, and it is, people should be able to see that the best way they get what they want is through liberty, right? Mm-hmm. Because liberty is, as I say, it's the politics of love. Why? Because, if you love someone, you want for them what they want for themselves. Liberty is the political manifestation of that idea. It's the political manifestation of love. Now, again, so this brings us back to paradigms. What is it that we are seeing that ain't so, that stops us from realizing that being free is the best way to have what we want?
I think the answer is basically, how do we bridge the gap between the left when the government is not there to really supply anything for them in response to liberty? So, I mean, if you want liberty, then the government isn't there to redistribute wealth. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think liberty can't offer you positive rights. It can only give you negative rights.
Oh, well, liberty is about negative rights. I mean, natural rights, right?
Exactly. Well, leave me alone. Whereas I think a lot of people feel entitled to things.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And indeed, so, part of what I talk about in this book is how do we sell liberty to those with that mindset? Because that's critical, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, half of America, more or less.
Sure.
I suppose it's a third, kind of identify as some flavor of progressive, right? So if we're going to bring liberty mainstream, we have to be able to speak in a language, certainly in a moral language that they can make sense of. And obviously, as you know, that's something I do a lot in my training with candidates, right? How do you speak progressive language when what you're selling is liberty and freedom. It can be done, but you need to know how to do it because it doesn't seem to be obvious for a lot of people like us who care about liberty or would self-identify as libertarian.
Right on. Anyways, it's Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Always launching ideas. We're here with Robin Koerner. Anyways, I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Kurt Nelson.
Hey, thank you, Johnny. And hey, people, the Johnny Rocket Launchpad is on libertytalk.fm Saturday and Sunday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. While the primary focus is on news, politics, and government, Liberty Talk FM also regularly features discussions on economy, privacy enhancing, and emerging technology.
Rock and roll. Anyways, with my voice of reason, the beautiful, sexy, talented Heather Nixon.
Thank you, Johnny. And we want everybody to check out libertarianleadership.org. They motivate, educate, and activate. They are an organization founded by the Libertarian Party members to specifically train and coach libertarians. Sign up for a free subscription to the Libertarian Leader newsletter and receive a free digital copy of Libertarian Leadership, the book.
Anyways, it's Johnny Rocket. We are talking to the amazing Robin Koerner, his new book, If You Can Keep It. You can check him out at robinkoerner.com.
If you're interested in the book, go to ifyoucankeepit.us. That's the site dedicated to the book, ifyoucankeepit.us. And if you order a copy there, I will personally sign it.
And if you can keep it.us and robinkoerner.com. Hey, thank you very much, Robin. We got more questions and we got Rocket Fire coming up. So stick around and always launching ideas in your direction.
Just to come home and hand you his pay. I got the bull by the horns on my tiny old track. Things are better than they ever have been. I miss a lot of loving in my lifetime, but I'm never gonna do it again. Never gonna do it again. Yeah, I'm never gonna do it again. Yeah, I'm never gonna do it again.
The Johnny Rocket Launchpad. And now, here's Johnny.
Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, always launching ideas in your direction. America's only rock and roll libertarian radio show. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Kurt Nelson.
Thank you, Johnny.
And my voice of reason, the beautiful Heather Nixon.
Thank you.
Anyways, we're talking to Robin Koerner, talking about his new book, If You Can Keep It. You can check it out at ifyoucankeepit.us, and Robin will personally sign that book for you.
That's really cool, right?
That's
there.
really cool.
And it's only 1776.
Yes.
What?
And Robin,
Right, see what I did there?
Robin.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Hey, Robin, can you find it at Amazon at all?
You can, but
Okay.
it won't be signed.
It won't be signed, and you want to put more money in Robin's pocket, so buy direct.
Yeah, buy direct from the
Does it
source.
help you out better?
Listen to the voice of reason.
No,
Johnny.
if you can keep it.us. Got it, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Thank you very much for this opportunity to have the amazing Robin Koerner on episode 99 of the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, dude. Thank you very much, Robin.
Indeed.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is great. Help me get the word out about this book and my work. Love it.
All right, Robin, what we do here on the second segment, it's called Rocket Fire, and you've done this a few times now. I think this is your third time here on the
This
show.
is the third time, and I don't think you were doing the rocket fire the first time, were you? Maybe I only seem to remember it the second time.
It
but
was
I might.
the second time. We did not have it. We didn't think of it yet. But now it is in fruition. And now, sir,
Can I add
Yeah.
that Robin's first appearance was when vodka got banned?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Yes.
On the lamp beer,
We
and
appreciate
you
it.
were on the vodka. Yeah,
Yes.
and you were winning.
Lambic. You were drinking
winning.
Lambic.
You were winning. I love it. I love it.
I was winning the decibel argument. Just all about 1/10 of a bell. Anyways, are you ready to play Rocket Fire?
Let's do it.
Question 1.
Do you think college degree has any value? And does it represent anything?
It has signaling value, which is the only reason people pay those stupid amounts of money for it. But it doesn't have the value close to what's being paid, especially in this country. The educational value of most college degrees in this country is extremely low.
Question 2.
Why do some Americans believe healthcare is a right?
That deserves a big answer.
Go ahead. We can go into
You see,
overtime.
the thing is, if you, as I've said in articles that kind of shock libertarians, if you took the Declaration of Independence that says the government exists to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to most other countries in the world, such as my native land of Britain, and you said, what is it that the British government does that is most consistent with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you would get a majority answer of the National Health Service, which is socialized medicine, which shows you how complicated this one is. And I would love to get into it, but then it won't be a quick fire round.
Okay, maybe we can come back to it then.
All right.
Question 3.
What are your thoughts on the non-aggression axiom?
It's a great rule of thumb, but it doesn't tell you everything you need to know.
Question 4.
What is your opinion on the school accreditation system?
I don't know how that works.
For example, if you go to a state university, everyone will accept those credits. But if you go to a private college, it may not transfer over to a state university.
Yeah, look, I think the whole education system in this country, certainly further education, which is what we're talking about here,
Yes.
is so broken that that's probably a second or third order issue compared to the fact that basically people are paying a lot of money and not getting an education. I mean, next to that, the fact that you can get credits without learning anything, that's the real, there's the real issue.
Right on.
Question 5.
Do you think entitlements is a situation where people think your time is theirs?
I don't think they consciously think of it that way,
Okay.
but it does often reduce to that. And something that we in the liberty movement need to do to get effective at is to get folks on the left, especially folks who are all about entitlement, especially in the welfare area, to actually kind of understand the implications of that.
Question 6.
Do you think there is a place for a purist libertarian within the Libertarian Party to ensure that the message stays pure and true?
Yeah, I think there's a place in the Libertarian Party and in the libertarian movement more broadly for anyone that self-identifies libertarian. As long as they're genuinely, authentically in the room for liberty, then that's great. And some people are philosophically pure, some people are more pragmatic. But I have to say that I think that a lot of those who self-identify as purists, what they often are is more dogmatic about their particular position, but their position isn't purer than the next guy's position. It's actually often, all of those purists often have specific positions that are at odds with the, if you want, classical liberal tradition out of which some of their ideas come. And I think it would actually help us to look at what we think purist libertarian philosophy is.
Right on.
Question 7.
Do you think humans are born with a moral code, or is it taught?
Yes.
I love it. I think that's...
We can come back to that. I answered your question. We can come back to that. So
All
that's
right,
a
question 8.
huge one. Right?
What do you-
we're talking about nature, nurture. We're talking about, this is huge stuff, that.
Okay.
Question 8.
What do you think of idea of objectionism?
Again, let me, another huge one. I'm not a Randian. I'm skeptical of people who self-identify objectivists are often the closest to making a religion out of their politics. And we in the libertarian movement should know that it isn't as much what you believe as the way you hold your beliefs that determine your effectiveness in the outcomes.
Sure.
So I would say that.
Question 9.
What do you think of voter ID laws?
I'm prepared to have a discussion on this kind of philosophically.
Man, we could go on all these questions.
But I think they're reasonable. Instinctively, I think they're reasonable.
Okay.
Question 10, the last question.
Is taxation theft?
You came up with that one especially for me, didn't you?
I did.
Depends how you define theft. And I think that most natural definition, by any definition of theft that anybody who's not an orthodox libertarian holds, you're going to hate it, but it isn't.
Okay.
But the problem is that we get into a semantics argument about what theft means, with libertarians on one side and everybody else on the other.
All right, that's Rocket Fire with Robin Koerner. Woo! Okay.
Good answers, man. Good answers.
Good stuff.
We expected that. It's Robin, man.
We do. Now, let's go back really quick. You said that you wouldn't be able to talk about it for very long on this, but you were talking about the moral code. And do you think humans are born with a moral code, or is it taught?
It's really hard, isn't it? Because we can't have a direct experience of our own humanity except mediated by our own upbringing and our own culture, right? So we have to do it by looking at other cultures and other times in history. I think there is, you see, it's kind of interesting that you asked this on a libertarian show, because obviously as libertarians, we believe in life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness as natural rights. Now, this is an interesting way into your question, because the reason they are natural rights is because everybody has them, right? When you get born, you already have life and liberty and you pursue happiness without having to believe anything. You directly experience them. To live is to directly experience those things. So we all have a natural empathy with other human beings in terms of those things, right? So I think there probably is a natural disposition to not violate those. But when it comes to other elements of morality, when it comes to specific manifestations of principles, when it comes to more, if you like, more detailed ethics and morality, then massively culturally driven. Yeah, massively driven by upbringing and what you're exposed to, right? Because then you're talking about things that the experience of which vary among human beings, in the sense that, something might be a moral good that is completely absent from the life of another human being, right? In a different culture, in a different place, in a different time. But life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are universal human experiences. And so I think the morality that is associated with those things is probably universal and the closest we have to inherent morality.
You bring a great point, though, because a lot of those things are already, as you said, natural things. This is mine. Don't steal my stuff. That's your stuff. I won't steal that. I won't hurt you. You don't hurt me. I think that goes without saying. I mean, I kind of knew that before anyone taught me about anything else. I remember I shouldn't do those things. And I think it's kind of intuitive.
Right.
I think setting the culture, though, like what religion you should have, or how you should talk to people, or what language you should use, or should you swear, I think those are set by the culture. But I think human instinct is based around those natural rights.
Right, and actually something I get into in some detail in my candidate training, interestingly enough, is that the one dimension of morality that seems to exist across all cultures, all political allegiances, and as far as we know, all times, is a preference for justice over injustice, which is so deeply wired that it turns out you can do games, right, in the laboratory. And I actually talk, I talk about some of the experimental data that have come out of these games. You could call them kind of behavioral economics experiments, I guess, as well as empirical psychology experiments. And they show that if person A sees person B being what he deems to be unfair to person C, in nearly every case, over time, person A will pay a price, i.e., will experience a cost to himself, will make a sacrifice to punish person B for his unjust behavior towards person C. So there's a notion of fairness, which seems to be extreme. And this is why, by the way, since we're on a political show, that you have to understand this, and I think I talk about this in the book as well a little bit. This is why we got Brexit in England, why Trump is an effective insurgent on the right, why Sanders is an effective insurgent on the left, because what they're doing is they're reflecting back to people a sense of violated justice, which is actually not political. It's very basic human sense of justice. So in the case of Trump, it just ain't fair that people that come to our country breaking rules get stuff that people who don't break rules don't get. It works at that very basic level, right? Now, if political establishment at any given time or place isn't reflecting back that kind of basic sense of justice in a particular area of politics, then an insurgent can exploit it by doing just that. And you're seeing it go on now all around the world. Massively important for libertarians to understand, because being able to reflect back people's senses of injustice is much more effective at making libertarians than is actually making libertarian arguments.
You have stated that you were liberal by default, and much like me, and my perception is we are a minority among libertarians. So many seem to come from the right or are conservative. But you recently said on the Stapleton show that libertarians are more like liberals than conservatives, with the empathy turned down and the rationality turned up. And I do think that some libertarians would take issue with that statement. Tell us why you think that's true.
Okay, massive studies have been done on this, and I'm talking psychometrically, not politically. Right. I'm not saying that liberalism is closer to libertarianism than conservatism is to libertarianism. Right. I wouldn't make that claim. But if you look at the psychologies of people who identify consciously as liberals and those who identify consciously as libertarians, if you do psychometric analysis, you find that libertarians are much more similar to liberals in general. I mean, obviously we're talking averages here, than they are to conservatives, which is kind of very interesting. So for example, openness to experience, right? Whether you gravitate towards new experience or away from it. Now, libertarians and liberals tend to gravitate towards it, conservatives away from it. Right. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about. And why is that important? Because to, again, sell libertarianism, which is what I'm all about, right, to move the culture, you've got to find points of commonality with those you're trying to persuade. And sometimes we have difficulty, obviously, finding points of political commonality with our political opponents. That stands to reason. But there's often points of cultural or psychological similarity that we can start, from instead. So again, we need to get psychologically savvy.
And like when I heard your class here at the Washington Libertarian Convention, I think it was the day after, you brought up some great stuff. I mean, I thought it was really great. And you were kind of focusing in on talking to people's emotions. Like when you were talking about Trump, he is definitely speaking, even though he may not make a lick of sense and logic, he is appealing to this deep-rooted emotional base is which people respond to. Same with Bernie Sanders. It's this fairness. And I think you hit the nail on the head on this. Your training class, the Art of Political Persuasion, winning supporters and not arguments. You actually use sales tactics on this thing that you're doing, trying to recruit people into the liberty movement.
Right. So what do we mean? You're right. Absolutely. Look, salesmen are just people that can communicate effectively to get an outcome. Right.
Sure.
And we need to start thinking that we're salesmen for our product, and our product is liberty. And, if you're going to be communicating anyway, you get a choice. You can either be effective or ineffective. So what do you want to do? If you care about the country, if you're doing it to make change, then you've got to want to be effective. Now, I know a lot of people who seem to be in communication for the experience of proving themselves right and being on this kind of intellectual masturbatory trip, right? That's cool too. There's a place for that, right? We did a lot of that, in the dorms in Cambridge at 3 a.m. when I was in university. So look, good salesmen are instinctive psychologists, right? And obviously, and there have been good salesmen in the world probably for as long as there's been trade, which is for as long as there's been human beings.
Sure.
So we can start to learn what communication is effective or not. And I'm like, I am sick of the process of making arguments that doesn't change anybody's mind. And so my logo is, as you said, winning supporters, not arguments, right? That's my kind of motto on my,
Sure.
Robin Koerner branding. Because, moving the culture means getting enough people to go, yeah, I agree with this and I'm going to stand by it. And I go into how the brain handles, to win an argument, you've got to do something very different with the brain of the person you're talking about than you have to do if you want to turn them around and make them a supporter of yours. I teach that stuff.
Yeah. So Robin, you say that you win not by making the other guy wrong, but by making him right.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I have lots of good lines like that, don't I?
Like, God, man,
God damn, that's great.
I am good.
But here's the thing. I think another thing that I think the Libertarian Party is doing wrong is they're not good entertainers.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Let me. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is what we do. We're good entertainers, and I mean, we're trying to bring that message of liberty through laughter and music and popular culture.
That is subjective, though. There might be some people that were like,
No, we're pretty hilarious, all right? But they suck at entertainment. They're like, and today in the news at Cato, 2 people were shot. And now we discuss this with Professor so-and-so. Doctor, what do you think? And it just goes on and
Or
on
it's,
and on.
or it's the other end of the spectrum with the guy stripping at the Libertarian Convention
exactly.
and parading onto the stage naked.
What I'm getting at, though, I just don't think the libertarians know how to entertain people. I think there's a fine line. I mean, you're using two sides of your brain, obviously, being creative and then being logical and stuff like that. But I think there is some appeal. If you make people laugh, you're finding that common ground.
Right, and you know what? I wanted to respond to Heather's point, so I'm going to try and tie your 2 points up together in a clever answer. Heather said about how I say that we've got to make people right, not wrong. If you basically take the argumentative approach, the discursive approach, which is, let me show you why you're wrong. Here, this is what's right? Then what you do is you activate the mental, the intellectual defenses of the person you're speaking with. Too, right? Mm-hmm. And so what they do is they set the bar for believing you at what I call must I believe this, i.e. I am subconsciously looking for a reason not to believe what you're telling me. Now, most of winning a supporter is moving that bar down from must I believe to can I believe, which is I like this guy. I identify with him. I trust his moral motivations, right? I am inclined to look for reasons to agree with him, right? Now, this is all going on subconscious. Now, laughter does that, right? If you've got someone laughing with you, if you've got someone having a good time with you, if you can be the delivery mechanism for that good time, they are not resisting you. And, the arguments only work when the person that you're speaking to wants to hear them. And technically that's called being doxastically open. You've got to doxastically open people, which basically means open their mind to want to hear what you say in a positive way, in a receptive way. Now, obviously, comedians, for example, do that. Your favorite musicians do that. That's why celebrities can have such a disproportionate impact on the opinions of people, right?
Exactly.
They don't know stuff about some issue. But because your favorite singer or sportsman or whatever has a particular issue and you identify with them, you're more likely to adopt their opinion. And this is another super important thing that libertarians need to understand, which is that political allegiance does not follow agreement about political issues. It's the other way around. You're with me. I mean, I can go on about this.
Well, basically, when you make people laugh, their defenses come down.
Right.
In layman's terms. And so basically they're more apt.
And that's also how you get laid.
Right.
There you go.
And
to get laid, you have to be a salesman.
I say in my talk, and there's another one of my little one-liners, right? In my seminars and stuff, I say, look, if you are trying to win supporters, it's more like winning a date than winning a debate. It's more like trying to get that date. Right?
Sure. I think it's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Robin, thank you very much for coming on the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, man. I really appreciate it. And your book, again, is If You Can Keep It, you can check it out at ifyoucankeepit.us for a signed autographed copy by Robin Koerner for $17.76. If you
got it.
Get it, $17.76. Thank you very much for coming on the show, brother. 99.
It's always fun to talk to you guys. I always love it.
Awesome. Anyway, so give it up for Robin Koerner!
Woo! Man, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Kurt Nelson.
Thank you, Johnny. And hey, people, I'm sticking to the radio station front right
There you
now.
go. Keep on the front.
The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is on various times at LRN.FM. LRN.FM is your source for the best liberty-oriented audio content 24/7. You'll hear live shows as well as the latest episodes of podcasts from around the world. Please see our top menu for a program guide and various listing options, including your phone.
Bam! LibertyRadioNetwork.fm.
Yes.
Cool station. They play us on the weekends. Anyways, on with the beautiful Heather Nixon.
Thank you, Johnny. And I'd also like to thank Evergreen Cannabis because the Johnny Rocket Launchpad is brought to you in part by Evergreen Cannabis.
Yeah.
From the highs to the lows, we've got... From the highs to the lows... I'm going to say this one more time. Just shh. From the highs to the lows, we've got you covered. Mention Johnny Rocket for 15% off your next purchase. They're located in beautiful Blaine, Washington. Please check them out at www.egcannabis.com.
Anyway, so thank you, Robin Koerner. Check him out at robinkoerner.com. Anyway, so next episode is 100, and I might as well just tell you who it is.
Don't do it. Keep it secret.
All right, we'll see you next week for
Secret
our
cells.
super secret guest. Thanks a lot. Rock and roll. See you next week.